is a project in Harvard Business School called HBX. And HBX is, actually disaggregating some of the best management programs of Harvard Business School and making it available to any individual who maybe wants to do a 40-hour course, take credits, build it into 400 hours, and eventually maybe come to Harvard Business School only for 6 months to do his MBA. So this concept of disaggregated manufacturing, disaggregated healthcare, disaggregated financial services, disaggregated education is what will make a truly connected digital economy evolve. So this is one dimension. So let me move to my second part. So what does it mean for the IT companies? I am very proud of the fact that I have personally been involved in the IT industry in India since the time it was less than 1,000 crores in the late 80s. That was the size of the industry. Today, if you look at our industry, we're very proud because this is now 57% market share of global outsourcing, which means 57% of outsourcing anywhere in the world happens out of India or out of Indian companies. It today is a $122 billion industry, which is a lot of zeros when you convert to crores. It employs directly 33 lakh people, which is not enough given the size of our country, but indirectly another 1 crore people in all kinds of services in the cities of Pune and Bangalore and Noida and everywhere else. So it's a very proud industry. But this industry, as you will, I'm sure, hear from many of our co-panelists, is morphing faster than you can think. Because in the good old days, people came to Rajiv in Indian Oil and said, look, we are thinking of information technology. Can you please help us? Can you give us a strategic plan? Can you give us stuff? Can you do this? Can you buy technology, etc.? If you look at the future, which is what most of us are now thinking about, worrying about, exulting about, there will be multiple buyers of technology. The biggest buyer of technology will be the marketing manager. I'm talking to the chief marketing officer of GE on a regular basis, and she's saying that, look, the CTO, the chief technology officer, now reports to me. Because people are saying IT is too important, too visceral, too fundamental to be left to the CIO. Rajiv, of course, is a great guy, but not apart from Rajiv. But the general CIO may have lost it in terms of understanding where the dimensions of IT is. So there's a jargon which we now use, which is actually a Gartner group jargon called bimodal IT. And that's the trend we're looking at. Bimodal IT will mean that 50% of information technology, you've all heard of the ERPs and accounting systems and manufacturing systems, will still be managed by IT. But the other 50%, the sexy part, if I may use the word, will be managed across the supply chain, which really means that whether you're using mobility, as most of you know, our Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad has already said that mobility will be the cornerstone of digital India because everybody will have a mobile phone. Today, 74% of Indians have mobile phones. Sorry, 74% of, but it's still not penetrating rural India. Once every Indian has a mobile phone, the whole method changes. And in corporates, everybody already has a mobile phone. So how do you use mobility? How do you use an area that one of my co-panelists will talk about called big data? Prabhu is going to talk about that. How do you use social media? How many of you guys have a Facebook account? Not enough. So when you talk to your children, they will say that, look, I have a Facebook account, but I wish my dad didn't have a Facebook account, because most kids are more worried about their parents speaking at them through Facebook than anything else. But if you look at it, today, most of the retail customers we work with in America are saying, look, can you create Facebook games for us so that young teens can buy more through Facebook? Okay, and Facebook is very much part, as you know, of even the Digital India campaign. So social media and mobility, social media, big data, and cloud. Cloud is, of course, this whole don't own anything, have everything available on the cloud, and so on and so forth. So what does this mean? It means that when you talk bimodal IT, there is a role for many of us who have been managing IT, but there is a huge role for thinking through how people will consume information in the future. And that's why I said, whether it is General Electric Corporation or IBM, or it is India, all of us have to think about the new ways of engaging, which is so important. It also means, and that is something from our industry point of view, that all of us are looking at a model that our big customers worldwide will adopt called adaptive sourcing. What does adaptive sourcing mean? It means that you must be able to look at IT from 3 lenses. One is the traditional, what we call run the bank kind of lens, which really means that you will engage, you will talk about big systems being developed, security, infrastructure management, etc., etc. The second part is what we call differentiated IT. Now, differentiated IT is what the marketing manager of GE will buy or the supply chain manager will buy because he knows how to connect up to his demand and delivery partners. So differentiated IT is where the control will pass to the functional buyer. And the third one, which we now call innovative IT. And which is why there's a new designation coming up all over the world called Chief Digital Officer. So no longer the Chief Information Officer or anything else, but somebody who understands digital. And Chief Digital Officers will have completely different ways of building systems. We'll use what is called crowdsourcing, which is getting ideas from the entire customer community, supply chain community, employee community, and build systems around that. And that'll be a completely different world. So imagine the madness we live in. Okay? The madness we live in is our customer is changing, our customers' expectations are changing, our own capabilities have to change at a very, very rapid pace. And when you put all these together, I think that's the opportunity we have. So let me conclude by saying that, I started off my career as a mechanical engineer, did mechanical engineering in BIT Mesra. In fact, like Rajiv, I also joined for electronics. But after the second year, I couldn't figure out why current moves in one direction and electrons move in the other direction. So I said, anything I can't see visually, I can't handle. So I switched to mechanical engineering and joined my friend Akshadip Mathur, and I think we occasionally studied, right, Akshadip? And from there, when I went to NITI, I said, look, I'm never going to be in IT, definitely, anything but. Okay, and I still remember in my batch, which graduated from NITI in 81, 49 of us in the batch, 2 of us decided not to do IT, the other 47 IT. Within 2 months of graduating, they were all on planes in America, either working for a company called Tata Burroughs Limited or Tata Consultancy Services. Even today, we have batch reunions in Princeton, New Jersey, where 45 people come. Because everybody is an American citizen sitting there. Imagine the brain drain. Okay, then I thought that, look, after 4 years in manufacturing, I realized, and I'm sure all of us have realized, that there's no way you can handle large-scale manufacturing without using information technology. So which is my own career interest has always been in IT and manufacturing. And if I were to, and Professor Mishra is here, and that's something I'm very passionate about, and what we currently do with Ministry of IT is exactly that. How do we make every Indian citizen, every society, and in fact every company or government corporation really look at IT from a strategic perspective? And one last message I want to give you, which I think Dr. Pachori alluded to, I think all of us have reached a stage in life, or maybe some of you are too young for that, but we have reached a stage in life where we are no longer worried about legitimacy. Arup doesn't need to prove himself once more. And neither do I, nor do many of you in this room. But all of us have an opportunity to build a legacy for ourselves. And my belief is, with a strong government in place, with what is happening, if we can give enough back to academic institutions, to the social sector, I think we would have served the country well. The role I do in NASSCOM Foundation is primarily to build what we call the National Digital Literacy Mission. It is one of the Prime Minister's key missions apart from Swachh Bharat and what is now called the Digital Saksharta Abhiyan, which is DISHA, which is National Digital Literacy. And what we're really saying is, if 80% of companies can allocate a bit of their CSR funds to building digital literacy, what that means, and I'm going to stop with this, digital literacy doesn't mean that every Indian citizen has to be able to use a computer. It just means that if it's a fisherman's son, he should be able to get onto a smartphone or a kiosk in the common service center in his village and tell his father, look, the high tide is coming at 12:30 at night, make sure you're back home by then. Or if it's a farmer's son, he should be able to access information and say, look, seeds are available, maybe cheaper, 10 kilometers away in the village, and then do a little math to say that, look, should I really walk across 10 kilometers and buy that, or buy it from here? So this is digital literacy. And our belief is, and if I conclude by giving you the picture of digital India will be big strategic visions by Ministry of IT and DAITY, et cetera, et cetera. It will be smart cities, hopefully the 100 smart cities. It will be digital capability in every panchayat. In fact, we're now working with the government to say that how can we have 300,000 common service centers, which will cover all the villages in India. It will be 250,000 panchayats where there are skills development centers using IT. And finally, it will be 220 million Indians, which is 22 crore Indians, one member of every family, digitally literate. So ladies and gentlemen, I think we are at a great stage in our own careers. BIT Mesra itself is a fantastic opportunity to contribute. And I think if we can all work together, and I promise Arup, we'll sit together and brainstorm and communicate with all of you. If Bitosa Global can come up with a model where young people can transform the future of our country, I think this conference and everything we do will be successful. So thank you very much.
I just like to make 2 comments. One, he mentioned, that everything will happen automatically. He gave the example of Singapore. So George Orwell had written a novel, called 1984, Big Brother is Watching You. So It's very scary. The concept is very scary, but it's inevitable. And second thing which he said, that IT is too important a function to be left to a CIO. I think they used to say that about politicians, that politics is too important a function to be left to politicians. Yeah. Anyway, very interesting. I think the next speaker is Mr. Venkatesh. So, Mr. Venkatesh, can you please?
Good afternoon, everyone. I was going to lead off with trying to talk about information, but it's such a large topic, you could be sitting here for 4 days, so I'm going to slice it up into 2 parts. One is structured information, the other one is unstructured. Structured information is something you see in neat little rows and columns and databases and so on. But the information technology industry is very comfortable with that. It's in use all over, and I won't talk about that. Now, that brings us to unstructured information, which is something that is not naturally arranged into an easy form to digest. And even that will take me too long to bring up here. So I'll go to one small subset of that, which is language. How do we deal with language on such a large scale? When ever since the onset of the internet, the volumes of human-written and human-curated information has got to a point that there's no way we can understand all of that in quick enough time to be actually able to do something about it. You'll see a piece of information that's buried in there that says in 2003, there were plenty of articles written that predicted the downfall of the subprime mortgage meltdown. But it just never came to the surface because everyone was busy chasing the money. And one of the proposals for trying to solve this surfeit of information, how do you pick out the important bits, has come from, like one of the attempts has been AI, or artificial intelligence. But the issue with AI is that you're trying to build a machine that is like the human, that is the human. It analyzes, it acts, and the consequences of it, good or bad, is left for us human beings to deal with. Recently you must have seen in the news that Stephen Hawking said that artificial intelligence could wipe out humanity. So perhaps there's a saner way, and it's called intelligence augmentation. This is something that has been in use, and it kind of lost the war to artificial intelligence because AI seemed just much more sexy, if I might use the word. Intelligence augmentation basically takes a lot of the virtues that are required to make decisions. To make a decision, you need the ability to compute really quickly, to understand something very, very quickly, to have the courage, to have the lateral vision to be able to connect up seemingly unrelated things and take advantage of all of these things. And if you actually look at all these virtues, it is very clear that some of these virtues computers are really good at, and some of the others only humans are. For example, courage. We've tried to train computers to show courage, as in it's an automated trading system that should be buying, let's say, 2 million shares, and they look at the situation, and if the computer were to be trained to show a little bit of courage, it would buy 3 million instead. But this is not something that you can naturally feed into a computer anyway. So, so the ideal, in an ideal world, it's going to be a combination of all the best qualities of humans allied with all the best qualities of machines. And this is the handshake that we're all trying to get to. We've used it in the financial industry to read 3 to 4 million news articles a day, which nobody can read, pick out the highlights, find trends, and alert people to one of two things. One is explaining a situation that is occurring right now, and the second is to be able to predict what will happen next. The markets have not moved yet, but there is bad news out here, it should move. So, so that's the predictive capacity of it. What can we use this technology for? Obviously in finance, in knowledge management, and so on. But I'd like to touch upon something Dr. Pachauri brought up about giving back. And one of the examples of that is in the area of education, where increasingly we are seeing that the educational system has subtly, over the course of the last 30 years, in my experience, has shifted from teaching the content of a subject to teaching for exams. And teaching for exams is something that leaves you inadequately prepared for dealing with situations of uncertainty. And in the modern world, you take any kind of situation, it is going to be an uncertain world. We don't know. So we need the human insight in order to be able to deal with all this. So one of the ideas with education was to actually go back, to turn the needle back towards content-based learning, to help students visualize the shape of the subject. You know, what are the highlights, what are the interconnections among them, and to be able to build sort of buckets in their head so that any reading that they do falls neatly into these buckets in a very organized way. And that is the attempt of this technology. So I want to thank you for listening.
Thank you, Prabhu. And I agree that earlier education systems, you know, they used to teach children to learn by rote, you know, rather than the content, you know. And if we can have IT systems, you know, help in education, that will go a big way in improving the standard of education. The next speaker is Mr. Sanjay Naik. Sanjay.
Good afternoon, everybody. As Ganesh talked about, I mean, there's a tremendous amount of excitement happening in the country in terms of digital India, make in India, the amount of energy which is happening in the manufacturing sector and so on. So what I thought I'll talk about is in the context of ICT. If you see the first phase of growth of the ICT sector in India, which has, you know, got us 57% of the world's outsourcing market share, $80 to $100 billion industry. And that's going to continue to grow, which is fantastic. But I see that there's an equivalent, if not bigger, opportunity which is lurking around right around the corner right here. And the reason why it is there, and let me give you a few data points, is about why India needs to build its own ICT products, why it's an opportunity, and why, as entrepreneurs and industry people, and of course from academic perspective, we need to facilitate that. Is today, the import of electronics products is the second largest item of trade deficit after oil. And in fact, the way which we are importing in electronics and everything, in 3 years' time, it'll be more than that of oil. So it's a